we were assigned as military observers in former Yugoslavia. So we are doing some patrols there. So one of the team leader decided that we veer off from the road when we saw a small truck tarmacked door leading to some place.
Yes.
And then we hardly before we moved even 100 meters, some power from somewhere ordered me to shout, "Stop!" So I jumped out of the car, the patrol vehicle that we were using, and immediately I went to the front. Hardly 2 meters from the vehicle, I noticed a wire. They had put 2 objects on either side of this narrow road and suspended about 2 feet above the ground. When I saw, I knew this was landmines connected with that tripwire. We just concluded that we were barely under 2 meters to be in the mortuary.
Yes.
And those things, when I went in the books, I found that each one of them had a radius danger area of 35 meters. And being 2 and we were in between, they could have sandwiched us and maybe ground us like into flour.
So today we have a guest on set. We are joined by retired Colonel Chrispin Wafula. And full disclosure, this is my father. Karibu to the set.
Asante sana.
Welcome. So, how long have you served in the Kenyan Army?
I have been introduced, and I think I can now proceed. I was recruited in the year 1977. Did my cadet training, which lasted 1 year, and commissioned on 31st March 1978, and exited the army on 24th January 2001, having served approximately 24 years. The first 300 days was rather closer to a year. The number of days was for cadet training. The rest was as a commissioned officer, having commissioned on 31st March 1978.
So, what inspired you to join the army? Did you always want to be in the army, or is it because that was the only job that was there? Because 24 years is quite some time. I believe there had to be some passion behind it.
Yeah, initially, I, like any other job seeker, had tried luck with cotton board, cotton seed, and marketing board.
Yeah.
Where I worked for a period of 6 months on contract, and when it was terminated, then I had to look for something to do.
Okay.
And that is the time I came up with a colleague, and he mentioned that there was cadet selection.
Yeah.
And I took up the challenge to move from Nairobi through Bungoma, my residential place.
Yes.
Met my father, who facilitated my trip to Kakamega, and out of closer to over 2,000 people, we made the selection, about 14 of us.
14 out of 2,000.
Yeah, and that is how I ended up being considered after having scrutinized our papers.
Yeah.
And also rigorous, strenuous physical competition,
Okay.
which we did 4 laps, running some of us in those days a shoes called platform, very highly raised.
Yeah.
But I managed to be number 13. Normally people say it is a unlucky number, but that is the number I was.
Yes.
And they picked me, and then we proceeded for cadet selection, which also lasted 2 weeks in Lanet, and eventually the selection board rested on me, I will maybe want to imagine you about 150, but only half of that number survived that grueling interview, and that is how I found myself in training and subsequently serving as an officer.
You also mentioned to me prior, when I was younger, that your grandfather had already told you in advance that you are going to serve. I think he mentioned you'd be carried by what? Green Land Rover, something like that.
Yes, there was a day
Yes.
I wanted to go and try my luck as a UT and trained teacher.
Yes.
At Wake Secondary after I had finished my A-level.
Yeah.
So on that day, my grandfather was taking care of our animals, was between him and me. And because he was going to preach, he told me, you remain back. The previous night, God had showed him in a dream that I had been given a green Land Rover, and that I should not look for the job will look for me. And I obliged, put down my papers and everything else, and I went to tend our animals.
Yeah.
And eventually, when upon my commissioning, I was given a Land Rover. For the period I served as an officer, I had a green Land Rover assigned to me for the period I served, as an officer for about 23 plus days.
So your grandfather basically saw, can you say he was a prophet or what? How is it he saw the green Land Rover?
He was a man of God. He was closer to God.
Yes.
And that was not the only thing he told us. There are other things that he told us, and we saw them pass.
Like what?
Like my father didn't make it through a by-election, and he gave reasons why God told him he was not going to give him that particular position. And he told him when it was at the nick of time, he didn't even have much time to find my father and talk to him, because it was now the final stage and my father was so busy. So my grandfather knew he will not make it from the message God had given to him. And that is how he exited in 1974 from Parliament.
After serving for how many terms?
He served 2 terms. The first term, he came in through a by-election in 1966.
Yeah.
And then the first election in Kenya were held in 1969. He went through, but come 1974, he didn't make it. Until these other subsequent trials, which he did put effort, but things didn't work his way. Okay.
Now, in the 23 plus years in service in the army, I am sure you have seen some precarious events. There are 2 stories in specific that you told me growing up, and I would like you to regurgitate those events for the audience. There was one you told me about a tripwire. Where was that? What was happening?
So I think I felt it was necessary.
You love to move.
I share with my family some of the intricacies and the hard times that I went through. And of course, I was hearing after I'd retired. The whole of 1993, I and other officers, we were assigned as military observers in former Yugoslavia.
Yes.
So in the course of my duty there, one day, because we were working in small groups, going about our duties, we went, and here to be specific, in northern Croatia.
Yes.
In the northern part of Croatia, town of Karlovac. So we are doing some patrols there. So one of the team leader decided that we veer off from the road when we saw a small truck tarmacked door leading to some place.
Yes.
And then we hardly before we moved even 100 meters, and we were going downhill, some power from somewhere ordered me to shout, "Stop!" And arbitrarily, the driver, Captain Jurek from Czech Republic,
Yes.
who was a driver at that time, he had to brake the vehicle using matches braking.
So you shouted stop,
Stop at the top of my voice.
and the driver stopped.
And he stopped. And
Yes.
we were really on a very deep slope, going down. So
Yes.
I jumped out of the car, the patrol vehicle that we were using. To be specific, it was a GMC, one of these heavy American type of vehicle. I think the vehicle is too heavy as well, 5
It was
ton,
armored.
somehow armored.
Yeah.
Jumped out, and immediately I went the front, hardly 2 meters from the vehicle. I noticed a wire. They had put 2 objects on either side of this narrow road and suspended about 2 feet above the ground. And
So like this high.
yeah, and when I saw, I knew this was landmines connected with that tripwire. So I saw that on touching that wire could have meant double detonation of these mines.
Yeah.
They were not bootstrapped. I will say they were real because I had that knowledge of what something real looked like.
Yes.
But at that point, I stood in front of the vehicle because I didn't want to make a chance that somebody may decide to turn the vehicle in front, and by so doing,
Kill everybody.
detonate the two. So
Yes.
I stood just in front of the vehicle, next to the bonnet,
Yeah.
and I tried to pick on my friends to tell the driver to go back,
To reverse.
to reverse.
Yeah.
And remember, I was reversing on a very uphill, steep hill.
Yeah.
And that was my worry. I didn't even know you'd manage. And then I asked the rest to come down and by pointing to where the objects were. And I didn't lose sight of standing just next to him. I didn't want him to make any move. By making a move, it means he should have overrun me because the danger was less than 2 meters away.
Okay.
And then when my colleagues saw, and then they also asked the other driver to, and lucky enough it was not an automatic vehicle, you had to apply the clutch, the handbrake.
So it was more manageable.
He managed, and when they saw, we just concluded that we were barely, I should say barely, under 2 meters to be in the mortuary. And
Yes.
those things, when I went in the books, I found that each one of them had a radius danger area of 35 meters. And being 2 and we were in between, they could have sandwiched us and maybe ground us like into flour. And that is the kind of thing and the threat I was trying to share with you people, that you see that God was on our side.
Yes.
And it wasn't me just shouting from my own knowledge. There were some supernatural powers that influenced my shouting without having.
So out of, with no intelligence of knowing the ground, something just told you to shout, stop.
To shout, and what we saw confirmed that some supernatural powers intervened. And here I want to say, God, who took us there to keep peace, was with us. And that is all I could conclude. And we ended the job at around 11.
Okay.
Because we could not have the strength to proceed. We just went to rest.
So you also mentioned to me another story about losing one of your eyes. I think it was by a thorn or something. What happened in that particular story? If you can just...
You are right. Though I was not good at making story or a good storyteller, but these were facts or things that I underwent.
Yes.
We were on, while we were in our initial basic military training, we went out. We were meant to move. I won't disclose what the terminology is and what we were doing, but we were meant to do an exercise that touches on endurance.
Yes.
And map reading. You look at the map prior to moving out, and when you move out, you will have memorized the general area that will be passing through, and they will only tell you the checkpoint where you will go. So we managed to go to the first checkpoint, and as they were letting us to go out, much as the exercise was meant to be to carry out individually, but there were guys, and this is a world where we live in, some will go and wait for others so that they can have the courage to move together to the next stage. So I met two guys, because I met them, who are my colleagues, not very far off from the flagging point. So we proceeded, three of us, on a 30 truck, which is used by animals, I think, when going to source water or to drink water. So we moved on, barely 3-4 kilometers from, this was around 9 p.m. at night. And the more you stay in darkness, you acclimatize, and then you now start to see, partially. So the colleague ahead found some shrub hanging over the truck. He tried to take it with him, push it as he was moving. So once he was through, he left it to come. So by so doing, he had made it push it too far towards his direction. So it came my direction, swinging with full force.
What, a branch?
It was a branch.
With thorns?
With thorns. And hardly did I even know what it was or anything like that coming my way. I didn't even see. I had a sharp slap across my face. Like that.
Yeah.
Then I tried to push it. Then I noticed that something was sticking in my left eye.
So it was connected to your face?
It was connected to my face. I could not easily push it. So I was forced to take my two hands, hold it this side and the other side, then pushed it with some force.
Okay.
That is when I realized a thorn had punctured my left eye. And I even used my left eye finger, the finger on my left hand, to check what had happened. I found it was just a hole, very hollow. I touched the right eye, it was there, the left eye, very hollow.
There was
Nothing. Then I knew I had lost an eye.
Yeah.
I even confirmed with my right hand, and after confirming, then while my two colleagues were still walking, I went aside and called on the name of the Lord. And please, God, return my eye. This poverty that is making me to be doing what I found myself in. Had it been for that, I'll be at home assisting my grandfather as he reads his Bible. And that was my prayer to God. I'll be at home assisting my father to prepare fire for him, because he was warming himself every evening, and it was my duty to make sure that there is adequate fire between his between where he is.
Yes.
Then when I mentioned that, I said, had it been for that, then this is what I'll be doing at home.
Yeah.
And within just a split of seconds after my prayer, I touched my left eye. It had already come back. To this day, I believe 100% I lost the eye, and God, after that short prayer, acted on it, and the eye resumed. It pained me for some time, for about an hour or two, and then the pain went.
Till today.
Until today, and I never informed my colleagues, because they will have disputed. How can it be?
Yeah, and also the one who returned that twig will not want to be flagged for indiscipline.
Yeah, maybe it, and I just took it that way.
Yeah.
And it was a talking point to this day. If there are any miracles that I've come across, that is one of them.
During the last administration of Honorable Uhuru Kenyatta, there was some talk of some form of veterans card. What is it? Have you received yours? What are some of the benefits? Because most civilians do not understand what a veterans card is.
That's a good question, because someone else also asked me elsewhere.
Yes.
And even we discussed among ourselves. And we said, today, unless you have that particular document that you are given, for commissioned officers it is called the Red Book. Unless you have it, nobody will believe you when you say you served in the military. There's nothing to show. So I think through the wise leadership and those heading the military in the past regime, I want to say so, they came up with a scheme that people should be identified. And not just being identified, but they should be accorded certain assistance. And the only way you can get that kind of assistance is to get a card, which I've not managed to get, but already there is a process, because they have approached me. I've supplied them with the necessary documents. So the process is on. They told me the next thing will be that I'm called to come and pick. But the benefits, we are told, you can use it to access any military facility for only welfare purpose. If you are going to shop at the Armed Forces Canteen Organization, these are shops within the military. If you have a vehicle, for example, you can go and buy fuel there. It is relatively cheap.
Do they pay VAT there?
I don't know, because of the new regime. I don't know why, because it hasn't become clear. But what I know, the prices are slightly cheaper than what we find in the market.
Oh, so this will be an advantage for ex-servicemen, so that they can get cheaper fuel, cheaper goods.
They also, we used to get, we were entitled to such a facility before. So through the wise leadership of those who are there, they thought that no, these people should come back to similar privileges, which have been locked out for some time to some of us. But once you get the card, it will give you entrance. You go to, and even if it is the officer's mess, there are certain things you can buy through in the officer's mess.
I think they're trying to compensate, because the pension of the people who served in your time compared to those who are resigning today, it's such a big difference. So I think maybe they're trying to find a way to make life easier for the ex-officers. Do you think that is what they're trying to do?
I think the same will apply to those who are living now.
Yes.
Because if they were to go and they didn't have anything to show, they may not be fined, or rather, they won't be encouraged to go back, like some of us have been. But now with the introduction of the card, we are even told you can go for treatment in the military facilities. These are the privileges we used to have, and they are now being rolled out, so that maybe somebody found somewhere that these retirees are really need this service. And the more so, the medical one.
Yeah.
The more you age, the more one becomes...
you need the
it
medication. It
becomes a nitty case.
Yeah.
Because it needs to be attended here and there, and they may not have the facilities available to him.
Okay.
And also, as you mentioned, we are told already there's a veterans board. I don't know whether that is the correct name, because we have not interrogated so much to know. We are told they'll be moving around to gather facts and about the real estate on the veterans, and see how, and maybe recommend the government what it should do to help them.
And is there a limitation as to what you can pick? Because what if you're a businessman, you just go in and you take 100 loaves of bread and you sell across the road?
I don't think the people I served with may be of that kind of thinking or caliber.
Yes.
They are gentlemen or ladies. If it is a service, you just pick what should specifically be for personal use or individual use.
Not beyond.
And I want to believe even those serving members will be in that order of facilitating. They may not allow anybody to take advantage. Even if it is fuel, maybe they may want to get someone's vehicle registration number, so you don't have to be taking vehicles here and there to fuel. I think it's pure etiquette. I want to believe that people will be thoroughly honest to themselves as they were before when they were serving.
I hope so too. Now, in 1982, there was an attempted coup on then President Daniel Toroitich arap Moi. Were you in service at the time?
Yes, I was rank of captain.
Yes.
We had been out there on a military exercise. I was in Kapenguria and had sought permission to leave in the morning to go through Bungoma, pick my grandmom and my mom, so that I go with them to Nairobi because I had left my madam she was in labor when I was leaving, and we were out for a week. So when I spoke to my boss, he said, you can take your people, go and see the results. Then I implored on him. But
of the election?
Not the election,
see
the kind of child that I got.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I thought you were talking of presidential election.
That was the idea.
Yeah.
It made me even wake up early. But as I woke up, ready to tell the driver to go through Bungoma, this was before 6. Actually, it was 5:30 in the morning. Then I was told by some operators, because when the exercise was over, we had not started movement to go back. We were at the rear, so we were to remain there until all others are to come back, so that we still maintain our position as the rear, pulling out. So, but I got permission when I was about to ask the driver to go to Bungoma. Then one of the operators said they have received the news and they could not divulge it to me because they did not want to be seen to be propagating rumors. So he invited me to go to the set, the communication vehicle which had been tuned to KPC, to listen personally. So I told him, what is it that you can't tell me? I was agitated with that particular operator. But I obliged when I went. Then at Mambo, the broadcaster whom you have heard is a veteran.
Oh, he also served?
No, he didn't serve in the military, but he was veteran in terms of what he was
doing. Oh, in the media, yeah.
In the media. So he was the one who was breaking news to the nation that there was a coup. And then I was shocked. I started imagining who could have done that when everyone else was out there. Who could have done it? So I walked to my immediate boss, reported. With the same tone and fashion, I asked him to come to the set. The same way that operator came to me, and I was not happy with him. Even my boss was not happy with me. He wanted me to tell him. And I said, I don't want to be the one now going to propagate rumors or propaganda. He came with me. He listened to that. He was confirming VOK announcing that there was a coup, and that is how we learned of it. He cut, or rather suspended my tour, which I was to make, as we look at things. Because now I went to East End, brought a cup of tea as we were discussing what could have happened, whom do you think could have been behind it, until when some army formation went back to its base. That is when now everybody had a sign of relief. And my boss released me to go to Nairobi. Not through Bungoma, but it was around 11. I took the operator, the driver of a communication vehicle, and we drove to Nairobi. Surprisingly, as we went, I only met 2 vehicles on the road coming our direction, but they never met us. You spot a vehicle coming, next thing you look, you don't see where they have disappeared. There was total fear.
Oh, you were in a military vehicle?
Yeah.
So when they see you, they get off the road? Yeah, you
see a vehicle coming in front. There were only 2 vehicles. One around the Band Forest area, and the other one was on Kinungi Hill, uphill area after Naivasha.
Yes.
And I was not paying attention, but then I will ask the driver, where did the other vehicle go that we saw coming? The driver will tell you he doesn't know.
Okay.
So that is the situation all the way from Kapenguria to Golf Course where I was staying. We only made 2 vehicles. That was the state. But come midday, we got an announcement that those who are involved had been overrun, and everything else was back to normal. And I want to believe that those were just junior misguided fellows, and they were crushed. And everything else was normalized after that announcement.
I believe they were hanged by the state. Now, could this have been the turning point of Mzee Moi? Because once he came into power, he was a very humble guy. He wasn't overreaching. But after that, that is when the Nyayo torture chambers and all these things began. Could he have changed because of that and decided to now rule with an iron fist? Or was this his persona throughout his political life?
There are 2 things here.
Yes.
The people who were involved in the coup were junior military officers. And whether junior or senior, all I knew, and I still believe it is a position, anybody going against the regulations and oath of office, because everybody takes oath, whether you are the junior, the recruit, or as an officer, if you go against that oath, there are regulations. If you break any law under Armed Forces Act, there is the law. For those who did it were subject to be punished according to military laws, which are also anchored in the Kenyan Constitution. So whatever happened, whether there was hanging, whether there was jailing people for life or doing that,
it was by the law.
It was within the law, and that was taken militarily. Because it goes all the way to military court-martials, and they have the powers vested in them by the law. So anything that went the direction it went, it was because the military took action against the victims. I do not want to believe that the civilians did it. I want to say this was a military taking action against those who break the law. In some cases they are severe, depending on the mistakes. At times they may even pardon. So it all depends.
So how many years has it been since you left the military?
It is now 22 years.
If I were to give you a firearm today, can you discharge the firearm?
Yes, it is like when I learned to ride a bicycle in 1977, I can still ride a bicycle. I don't need to go to anybody's school or to rethink. Same thing. Once a teacher, you will remain a teacher.
Yes.
You will know how to use a chalk.
Yeah, well said. Once a teacher, always a teacher. Now that is my father, retired Colonel Chrispin Isaac Khaoya. He has graced us today on set. Now you know what I do. Usiniulize unafanyanga kazi gani.
Okay, nimeona.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for giving me this privilege and platform.
Yes.
This is the first of its kind for me.
The first interview. So you get the exclusive.
Yeah, so that is how it has gone. We leave it at that.
Thank you so much. As usual, guys, if you're here for the first time, please go on and hit the subscribe button. And if you're watching from a different platform, just head on over to YouTube, search for David Wafula, hit the subscribe button. You're going to be getting a ton of content of this nature. If politics is something you're passionate about, this is definitely the one channel that you really, really need to subscribe to. All right, guys, adios. Thank you for choosing David Wafula as your primary news platform. We put countless hours in research, recording, and editing. By showing up each and every day to watch our videos, you encourage us to generate more videos for the viewers. We are on a mission to inform, educate, and build a better tomorrow. To our thousands of followers in a world full of presidents, kings, and queens, you are the real gem. Adios.